Welcome everyone, I hope you're all doing fantastic and you had a brilliant Easter weekend. Now today we are going to be having Ogre Kingdoms and the DBD Midnight going up against Entropy and Grand Cathay. So we're going to be on a bit of a fan favourite here with Battle for Itza. It's going to be super wide, nice and flat, and can certainly bring many different styles of gameplay to the battlefield. Now we are going to have a bucket load of anti-large here, starting with the Jade Warrior Halberds and loads of the cheap peasant long spearmen. So a really good wide front line. We are going to have the double iron held gunners, very cheap armor piercing, and then also the expensive snipers of the crane gunners. So these lovely ladies kind of really produce lots of good armor piercing, plus they come here with the shield breaker. So if we do bring any ogres today with shields, they're certainly going to get taken down. We are going to have two of the grand cannons here in the back, more Jade Warriors and more peasant long spearmen in the back, and for the Lord choice, we are going to have the Lord of Yin. So Yin magic, definitely one of my favourite here. The Ancestral Warriors is very strong. Of course, they do have 75% physical resistance, thanks to being ethereal, and there's really not much magic damage outside of spells here for the Ogre Kingdoms. We're also going to be having Talon of the Night, which is just a fantastic armor-piercing spell. We are going to have Arcane Conduit and the Jade Amulet just to give loads and loads of mana. So really nice build here coming from Entropy, but from the side of the DBD Legend, we are going to have full units of the Noblars ready to go in the front, backed up by loads of Ogre Balls and one of these Saber Tusks for a bit of mobility. Now for the big chungus, we are going to have the Hunter on the front left here with the Noblar Thiefstone. These bad boys of course do come with that damage resistance, and then also Loner, giving speed and leadership when they're going to be on their own. Now for the Lord choice, which is pretty regular here, coming from Midnight, he likes to go with the double Hunter, but the second one here is going to be the Lord choice. So he's going to be ready to go here with the Noblar Thiefstone, and then also Loner as well. Given that added speed and leadership, it's actually really quite handy here for the Hunter. So in the trees, just one unit of the Man-Eater Ogre Pistols can fight in melee combat, really good armor piercing, and then also pretty good missiles there to fight in combat. So a good, really chunky back line, backed up by loads of chaff in the middle. It's just the perfect recipe for capturing all these domination points. So we're going to be charging forward. There's going to be lots of shots here coming from the crane gunners. Cannon's going to be firing. You can see just so much damage here on these ogre balls. Really, really early doors. Really, really good damage. It's going to be one unit down to half health already. And we're going to talk a little bit about this game. There's a little bit of a reason why I'm casting this one today, but we can see the Grand Cathay player already slowing down, and this is where the problems start arising for Grand Cathay. So we'll go through it a little bit. But really nicely here coming from Midnight, he's going to be getting the Noblar Thiefstone, using that Unspottable for the Hunters in the back, and we have a very exposed Grand Cannon. Now what you normally do, and it's a bit of a problem here, so we can see we did get a bit of a buff for the Harmony. So of course you can have a wider radius and still get those buffs. So a lot of people used to have to stick infantry units on top of the Grand Cannon. So you've got one here, but we don't have anything protecting this one. And this certainly starts off a bit of a chain reaction of issues that we have here for Grand Cathay. So we charge through, lovely explosion there of one of the cannons. That's going to be all sorts of smoke everywhere, just, kind of befuddling all of the Grand Cannon crews. They're going to be grabbing their cannons and they're going to be running away. I think here, unfortunately, Entropy doesn't quite realise what's going on. In the back, we are going to have the Hunters. We do see one here. Jade Warriors charge in. Anti-large armor piercing, perfect here for the target of the Hunters. And we're going to get the fantastic spell of the Ancestral Warriors. The Stormy Legends of old going to charge forward here. And of course, no magic damage here for the Hunter or his Stonehorn. Going to be quite problematic to deal with those Ancestral Warriors. Charging in with the Lord choice as well, with some good mobility to get in there and certainly shut him down. In the back, the Hunter still hasn't been recognised here on the left-hand side. We do see Jade Warriors, unfortunately not being pushed in the back. I think now they are going to be given... There we go. We do have the attack order to get in and cause some good damage. Now in the front, we're going to be shooting, get a lot of damage here on the majority of the Ogre units. One Ogre ball down to 25%. Lots of gunfire coming here from the Iron Held Gunners in the middle. But there's no map field control coming here from Grand Cathay. And there's a couple of ways to work in Grand Cathay. For me, it's normally shoot and scoot. So you normally get some good shots in, good damage, and then you start moving forward. But in the back, lovely work here coming from Midnight. He's going to be charging down up against the crane gunners. And really doing some good damage, and forcing this unit to have to be a little bit more mobile rather than shooting and moving around the map. Now we do unfortunately rampage. This is one of the biggest weaknesses for the Saber Tusks. So they're going to kind of rampage here into an anti-large unit of the Halberds, which is not particularly good here for Saber Tusks. Now fighting in the middle, we are going to be having the Terracotta Sentinel. He's going to be charging after the Hunter, and he's also going to be pushed on here by the Lord of Yin. So good work here, but he is going to be in the back, compromising the crane gunners, forcing these lovely ladies here into melee combat. And they look just ridiculous in combat. I absolutely love it. So we are going to be opening in the middle. It's going to be 1, 2, 3 here, going into the favour of the Ogre Kingdoms, because of course we're going to be winning here on damage value. I definitely cast this game on live stream, and I was so surprised because the damage value was massively in the advantage, over twice the amount here coming from Grand Cathay, and they were losing the battle. In the back, these massive sort of single entity card effects in the back were just distracting everything. We saw Jade Lancers getting summoned, Grand Cannons getting compromised, Iron Helm Gunners now turning and burning, and there just wasn't much support getting on the domination points. And these massive distractions around the battlefield were so crucial, and they were really causing problems left, right, and centre for Grand Cathay. But we are going to charge forward Peasant Long Spearman. You can see the Terracotta is going to be moving back. He's not going to be able to help in the middle. We are going to get a summon, and the second and final one here of the Ancestral Warriors. But that is going to be it. There's going to be no more support here coming on the domination point. There's nothing really here compromising it. And the Ogre Balls, unfortunately, they're going to be one of the fastest factions against one of the slowest factions here with Grand Cathay. So they can reinforce the point much quicker than Grand Cathay can. So being that we're not going to be eating up all the miles here on the battlefield as Grand Cathay, we're really going to be suffering on the mobility point. So charging in here with the Noblars, they're going to dissipate a lot of the damage that could be put on top here of the Saber-Tusks. They're going to go in from behind. 70 weapon strength is super strong. 25 armor piercing can do some good damage here up against the Jade Warrior Halberds. So one unit of Ogre Balls backed up here by Noblars, and we're also going to have the Gorges as well. Good anti-infantry armor piercing. These bad boys still unbreakable, of course. They have been nerfed down to 12 models, but they're going to do some devastating damage. But we do get a Talons of the Night here in the middle, as they're going to be fighting for their lives up against this very, very nice spell indeed. But of course, did a lot of damage up against the Jade Warriors. They're going to be taking a lot of self-damage there, unfortunately. We do have units of the Great Long March charging in, but of course, bucketloads of armor piercing there for the Gorgeous. So you've got to be very careful here. These very heavily armored cavalry can certainly get dragged down. In the middle, we are going to have Noblar Trappers fighting here up against the Peasant Long Spearmen. Definitely favour the Trappers there. Very, very good melee defense. And the Ancestral Warriors, unfortunately, not going to be doing too much. These beautiful men of the Storm Dragon, unfortunately, not going to be getting into combat here too much, and they're not going to offer anything on the capture point. Now, of course, the Hunter here, the Lord Choice, very, very weak indeed, down to 260. I did think this might get desummoned, but it's like it's going to be staying around. In the middle, we are going to have Gorges. Of course, as we talked about, good armor piercing, fighting here up against the Terracotta Sentinel. The big bad boy, he may be absolutely gangster, but this is definitely not a place he wants to be fighting. Fight up against, sort of these good monstrous infantry, bucketloads of armor piercing is going to be devastating for the Sentinel. So at the top, we do have anti-large armor-piercing missiles coming from the Hunter. They're going to be thrown down here, these ginormous javelins coming into the flank of the Terracotta, and they'll do some great damage. 444 there with anti-large as well. The bonus is really going to be certainly beneficial. So we do get one unit of the elite, the Dragon Crossbowmen, coming to the battlefield here with this beautiful yellow. And these bad boys, when they get and they shoot, they are so accurate. They just do not miss. They're going to be firing here against the Manita Ogre pistols, and they have so much armor piercing. There's pretty much very few things here that we can do to compromise. It's pretty much just going to be the mobility coming from the side of the Ogre Kingdoms. Now, Crane Gunners are going to be firing into the front, and here we have some map field control, but it's a little bit too late. We're going to be 2,960 points to 0. The Crane Gunners are eventually on the top of the ridge here, and at this point we're still, I think, at least 2, if not 2.5 times the value ahead against the Ogre Kingdoms. But you can see units just flooding forward. They are super fast, 54 speed here up against the infantry of 28. That's nearly double the speed, and that's why you really have to eat up the miles here as Grand Cathay. Now we're going to be shooting here with the Peasant Archers. They're going to be firing at this moment. I was a little bit bemused. We had 2 cannons getting summoned with a third one still on the battlefield, and we have more archers coming to the battlefield. And the biggest problem I found here is that, well, they can't capture anything. They don't fight up against infantry very well. Now, we do get Domination Point 3, but is it too little too late, I wonder? Because, previously we used to get quite a bit of advantage, but the further the distance was from the ticket advantage, the more supplies you got as the losing side. Now, that's not the case anymore. You only get 5 tickets for being 1,000 behind, and 10 tickets when you're 2,000, and anything outside of that, you just lose it. So at this moment, we're getting no extra advantage by still maintaining sort of a deficit here up against the Ogre Kingdom, but we're summoning archers, which are going to be very good at disrupting a lot of this infantry and not taking much damage in return, but we're not going to be capturing anything. We're not putting any pressure here on the map. Domination Point 2, if it's going to be held, is going to win, and we do see here that it's going to be the slowed effect coming from the Noblar Trappers. We're going to be fighting here with the Peasant Longspearmen, but they're going to be holding off beautifully, and just so they really, really need to. Iron Guts in the middle, good armor piercing. They, of course, are armored. They pay a lot for armor, but they can really thump quite nicely back up against the Celestial Dragon Guard. So the elite of the elite infantry coming in the fourth, fighting here alongside the Lord Choice. The Yin magic has mostly been used up here. We've seen both Ancestral Warrior summons, and then we've also seen a couple of the Storms of the Night. So another one is going to come to the battlefield here, but that will do a lot of damage here up against infantry. Monstrous infantry will do a lot better here up against this magical spell. But unfortunately here, a lot of the very expensive Ancestral Guards will get ripped apart here by this magical spell. So shots to the front here by the Noblars, getting absolutely deleted here by the Dragon Crossbows. In the middle, we do have the Terracotta, and this bad boy needs to get to the top of the map. He needs to use that Terra and really get in and amongst the Noblar Trappers. Now we do see here, unfortunately that is actually going to be the pull out there. I thought this did go to 5,000 points, it's not going to. And this is something I really want to say about the map field control and the way people are playing Grand Cathay. At the moment, I'm seeing a lot of people just go, okay, cool, we've got more tickets for Grand Cathay, so I just want to go wider. I just want to bring more range, and I really don't think that's the exact way to play it here. I think we've invested quite a lot into range. We've got in consideration, 3 artillery tools, so crane gunners, double grand cannons, so that's going to be, 2,700. That's already a third invested into artillery. The rest here is also going to be on range, so we did actually have 2 iron-held gunners as well on top of that. So that's going to be an extra 1,000 gold. So nearly half of the value of this army went into range, and there's just not enough pressure here to sort of be taking the map. And at the end of the battle, there was 14,000 and something damage dealt here by Grand Cathay, and only 7,000 done by the Ogre Kingdoms. And the way you want to really be playing with Grand Cathay is you want to get a bit of that battlefield control, do a bit of shooting, good damage, and then push. Damage, push, damage, push. And then you really want to get to a point where you have the domination points taken by your infantry pushing past the domination points, and then getting your range on and maintaining those capture points. Because then that really gives you good, kind of zero resistance for your really slow infantry to get up and keep supplying those points as much as possible. And, even though they were winning on the battlefield, because Ogre Kingdoms are twice as fast here with the majority of their infantry, even if they are losing in mass waves, they were still able to reinforce the domination points a lot faster here than Grand Cathay. And that's where the mobility side here on domination, I think, is really underestimated. And, really gets overlooked quite a bit here by a few players. And, this is not just to say to Entropy, this is, hopefully it doesn't find this offensive. I just thought that, this really needed to be highlighted. I saw quite a few Grand Cathay players taking a really wide archer and gun line, but having no pressure on the map in the way of the domination point. So maybe that's just something for you guys to think about in the future. I really like the army composition. I think it's really smart though. Bucketloads of, anti-large and armor piercing. Good anti-large with the Peasant Spearman as well. Really like the spells from the Lord Choice. I think just, towards the end and as it went on, it's the same here as well with Khorne. A lot of people really invest in the mobility towards the end stage when they really start to lose it. But that is just a massive diving scale of just loss, because they don't really have any sort of staying power. You really want to have that heavily armored infantry on the point, holding right at the end stage. Because otherwise you're really going to be losing that map field control. And on certain maps, it can be really, really punishing for sure. So let's very quickly go through the stats. So 1,500, 1,440 there for the Hunters, 766 for the Man-Eater Ogre Pistols, 160, 0, 377 there for the Ogre Balls, with 300 for the Saber Tusks. 80, 40 there for the Noblars, with 45 and 170, with 1,180 for the Lord of Yin. Really nice spells there. 760 for the Crane Gunners, 580 and 750 for the Grand Cannons. And that just shows all 3 of these not paying for themselves. Considering you also doubled your value, these 3 didn't even pay for themselves. Even if you doubled the value against the Ogre Kingdoms, the artillery pieces that you put money into didn't pay for themselves. Only one of the Iron-Held Gunners did, and this is a really good tool for me. This is what I use. And if I brought a force in Warhammer 2 and a lot of my range got really, really mixed values, let's say I brought dwarfs and I brought some crossbows, let's say some crossbows got 1,200, some got 300, some got 800, some got 1,600, that would show to me that they weren't being as effective as they possibly could have been. And when you see people win with, say 3 units of Thunderers, and all those Thunderers got 2,000 value each, you know that they were not really compromised very often. You had enough infantry to range ratio, you had some good map field control, and you had the right build and aspect going on in the battle. That's something that I try to use to make sure that I'm playing, pretty optimally if I can. But 480, 140, and 580 there for the Halberds, with 420, 130 340 and 120 there for the Peasant Long Spearman. So in the back, the Terracotta, he got 1.6, pretty good stuff from him. Only 900 there for the Great Longbars, but they still had a lot to give. 1,100 for the Celestial Dragon Guard. Yeah, really, really good, but of course they can get shut down pretty comfortably. 1,100 for the Celestial Dragon Crossbows. Really like these bad boys. In my opinion, very much underrated. Next in Grand Cannon, I think this was a little bit overkill. I think actually just extra Jade Lancers would have been really good. I think, Noblars really struggle up against Jade Lancers. I think they're very good map field control, and, they prevent these little Noblars from getting all those captures that can be quite irritating. 630 there for the Halberds, with 180, 0, and 0 there. I don't know if there was anything else here in the reserves, probably not too much. So we had 600 and 620 there for the Gorgers. We didn't quite see Scrag, it's a bit of a shame there, but 420 for the Iron Guts, 380, 230, 170, 300, 330, 460 there for the Saber Tusks, 27, 800 from the Noblar Trappers, very, very good stuff. And 0 of those for these Noblars. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. A little bit more of a in-depth analysis. If you guys want a few more of these, do feel free to let me know. But maybe try and find a replay that ties to this, that shows a good way of playing Grand Cathay. Maybe I'll try and find something a little bit like that. If you'd like that, do feel free to leave a comment down below with your thoughts and opinions. But please make them nice. There's been a few rude and unnecessary comments recently. So if I do start seeing some of those, I will be removing them. So guys, please do be kind and careful with your words, please. But other than that, if you enjoyed it, please smash the like button. Feel free to subscribe. And I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. So take care.